probably 5, 6, 7 times, wrote to him, John Paul, stop messaging her. I don't know what's going on with you guys right now, but you are making this so much worse.
The father of a South Carolina pastor accused of driving his wife to take her own life is speaking out on his son's behalf, saying Mica Miller was a very sick woman. Now, we've spoken with Miller's father and sister right here on Sidebar, but now we are getting new insight from Mica's attorney and her friend, Charlotte Korn. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Everybody, this is a Law&Crime legal alert. Google Incognito tracked users' browsing data without their knowledge. Yep, while Mass Tort Alliance, one of our legal sponsors, is actually helping users file for compensation due to Google users' privacy issues surrounding Google Incognito. So if you've used Google Incognito anytime since 2016, you can start your claim in less than 10 questions at incognitoclaims.com/sidebar. We have been following the Mica Miller story here on Sidebar. Very sad, eerie story, to say the least. And now, Reginald Miller, the father of John Paul Miller, father-in-law to Mica Miller, insists that his son's relationship with Mica has been very misunderstood, and that Mica's mental health is what led her to make things up. So 30-year-old Mica Miller was found dead at Lumber River State Park just across the state line in North Carolina on April 27th. She had reportedly purchased a gun in the days before her apparent suicide from a pawn shop. That Sunday, her husband, 44-year-old John Paul Miller, announced his wife's death during a recent service at the church where he's a pastor, Solid Rock Church in Myrtle Beach. And as we'll get into more in a minute, there was a back and forth between the two on separating and filing for spousal maintenance, financial support, and preparing to potentially divorce. But police and the medical examiner have ruled that Mica's death is a suicide. But that hasn't stopped the theories and the rumors and the accusations. A lot of focus being put on John Paul and his alleged mistreatment of Mica. Well, Reginald Miller seems to try to want to correct the record on that. In an email to the Daily Mail, Reginald Miller writes, quote, I have a video of Mica on a mission where she tells last year how she took a gun to kill herself and pulled the trigger and the bullet locked in the gun. In the second weeks of marriage, she went and got a gun and was outside shooting up the neighborhood when my son ran out to stop her. She spent the first 3 weeks in a mental facility and all the time since then. Her family refused to believe how sick she was. She was a very, very sick young woman. Now, Reginald pointed out that a photo from the pawn shop where Mica had purchased the gun that she allegedly used on herself shows her smiling as she talks with the clerk. He also says that she doesn't seem emotional in her 911 phone call just before her death, in which she says she wants her family to know where to find her. Now, we spoke with Mica's father, Michael Miller, about what he thinks happened to his daughter.
So the theory would be that because she had multiple tracking devices put on her car previously, that she was followed out to the park or forced to go out to the park. Okay, so let me back up just a little bit. One reporter has spoken that in the video that shows her purchasing the firearm, there's a truck that looks like Mr. Miller Jr.'s truck out there in the parking lot. That potentially follow her there. She gets the weapon, and then he gets in the car with her and goes out there. And he's had other people helping him track her and do other things, including a PI that he admitted to. And they either follow her out there or there's no reason for her to go out there. That's the main point as well. She's never been out there. We don't go up there. It's not a family spot. And she was off the trail enough into a park ranger only area that nobody knows about. When the car was at the park and then it was collected by the authorities, they didn't check for a tracker, which blew my mind. They said, oh, we have all the evidence and everything. I said, well, was there a tracker? Was there a tracker?
Yeah.
We asked them, was there a tracker on her car? And they said, well, we didn't check. And we were flabbergasted. This happened over and over during that interview. Why didn't you check that? We know that there was 3 or 4 trackers put on her vehicles. Why wouldn't you check to see if she was followed? They said, oh, there's no cameras, but we know she wasn't followed. Her car is just out here.
Now, we had a chance to speak with one of Mica Miller's best friends, Charlotte Korn. Let's hear what she had to say. Charlotte, thank you so much for coming here on Sidebar. First, before we even get started, I know how close you and Mica were. I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm so sorry for what you're going through right now. And I'm sure it can't be easy, this story being, amplified and discussed in the media so much. But I just want you to know that I'm really sorry for everything you're going through.
Thank you very much. It means a lot.
And I want to actually start. You were kind enough to send us several different screenshots of text messages that I think are important in the story. And I want to start with one that Mica had sent to you just weeks before she died. And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this was maybe your last communication with her. But in the message, it's dated April 5th, Mica writes you, "Thank you for your gentle warnings throughout the years regarding my relationship with JP. I know that you knew I wasn't ready to get out, but looking back, your warnings were very helpful when trying to make tough life decisions. Definitely have replayed our convos in my head over and over throughout the years and wish there was something I could do to get out. And now I've done it," with a smiley face emoji. And then later on, she writes, "Yes, things are looking up and are headed in a great direction." What do you make of that?
I mean, they were. She had a new purpose in life. She had done a mission trip earlier that year, and it really sparked a heart for missions for her. And she had plans to go back and really had a new desire to become a missionary. She was working at a new job that she was loving. She'd finally taken legal moves, to end her previous chapter and start a new one. So things were looking up.
What do you think the misconception is about Mica right now in the story? What do you want? How do you want to correct the record?
Well, the narrative that's been pushed about her for so long, that she was just basically a mental person and having all kinds of psychotic breaks, and that she needed this medicine that she didn't have or wasn't taking. That just simply was not true. She was prescribed medicine, and she had been taking medicine, but yeah, she was starting to question if she even needed it, just because of the cause that, or the reason that she was diagnosed in the first place was a little odd. But also, she told me about a month before her death that she was taking her medication in front of her roommate, so that she would have a witness to the contrary of this narrative that she's just off of her meds and having a psychotic break.
And she never indicated to you that she ever wanted to harm herself?
No, never.
So as I mentioned, you sent us a number of text messages, and I want to read one. This is from JP Miller. This is on April 28th at 6:28 a.m. And it says, "I thought you two should know Mica killed herself earlier today. She needed her lithium because she has been having a 3-month psychotic episode. I'll keep you posted on funeral." What was your reaction to that?
I was just thankful that I had found out around 2 a.m. that morning from anybody else but him, and in that way. But of course, my first thoughts were, this is the text from the grieving husband telling her best friend. Just, yeah.
How many people did he send that to?
Who knows, honestly. I mean, we got that at 6:30 in the morning, and
When you say we, it was you, and who else got that?
my husband, he sent it to both of us.
Okay. There's another message that you sent us from John Paul Miller, and it's in a group of people. And if you could explain to us who all the people are in this group, but this is what the message appears to show from John Paul. "This is what happens when you try to encourage someone to divorce the person they love and tell them they don't need medicine and that they're not ill when they are. Good job, Francis family." So who was he writing that to, and what was that about?
So that was the night of her death at around 10:30 at night. They had found out within a few hours of that message, and that was the text that he decided to send them. At 2 a.m., when I found out from another friend, I was just in total disbelief and thought there was just some terrible misunderstanding. So I immediately called her sisters, and they were all together and confirmed everything. But they sent me that message. They said, "This is how JP is handling it with our family."
What was he referring to? Was there an encouragement of Mica to leave him? What was that dynamic? Why would he write something like that, you think?
I mean, her siblings did always, I mean, they didn't have the greatest relationship with him, simply because they'd seen this history from the time she was 15 and met him, and then how their relationship developed. So they were never true JP fans, if you will. But his narrative about encouraging her not to take her medication, they never did that. I've seen texts where Mica would text saying, "I'd like to get off my medication, and I'm letting you know so that you can kind of monitor and check in on me." And the sisters' texts are saying, maybe you should do this in a kind of controlled way with better supervision. And so they did not encourage her to just stop taking her medication. Now, they did question whether she was correctly diagnosed and if she needed the medication, but they were not pushing her to just stop taking it.
You also sent us, and again, correct me if I have the date wrong, these are text messages between Mica, John Paul Miller, and you from November 16th, 2022. I'm going to read some of them, and then let's talk about it if we can. So the message appears to show John Paul Miller writing, "I would leave anyone or anything for you. I'm only asking for the same respect. You can't treat someone like S and then leave. You're supposed to work it out, stay, and do whatever it takes. Please don't be selfish this one time. I'm literally begging you to do the right thing, the godly thing." And then he goes on to say, "I need you, I want you, and I don't want to sleep alone ever." Okay, so Charlotte, there are a lot of these messages. What exactly was he talking about here? What was going on?
Well, at the time that the messages were coming in, I did not know at all. I found out later that they had had a fight. Mica referenced something that morning. I had texted her to see if she wanted to hang out before we left for our Thanksgiving travels. And she said, "I'm actually headed up to visit with my sister. Things are not good in the Miller household right now." And again, I didn't know what was going on. But when he started texting those, again, I was totally in the dark. And having found out later what happened, it was pretty ridiculous, actually. I don't know the full scope of what happened, but I know what started it. The question that kind of kicked into them having an argument was, he asked her, "If you could kiss a girl, who would it be?" And she said, "Of course, I wouldn't kiss a girl. That's a ridiculous question. I'm not going to answer that." But he kept harping on it and harping on it. And finally she said, "Fine, I guess if I had to kiss a girl, it'd be Charlotte." But he did not like that answer because we were very good friends, obviously, and we were spending a lot of time together, and we talked all the time. And so that just kind of made the switch flip. And he started asking, "Well, what kind of feelings do you have for Charlotte? And have y'all kissed?" And that was the conversation that led into, I think, a greater conversation, which I still don't have the full information on, but that was what kicked off this big blow up and why I was included in it.
Yeah, she writes, "Why are you being crazy? I just wanted to visit my sister. Why put your sister before your husband?" Have you confronted John Paul about any of this? I mean, what did you say during the course of these messages? I'm trying to understand your relationship with him and what you observed with him, and how you responded to all of this.
Yes, I had a direct message going with him, and I probably 5, 6, 7 times wrote to him, "John Paul, stop messaging her. I don't know what's going on with you guys right now, but you are making this so much worse. Please stop messaging her. And I just kept telling him, which goes to show my reason for being in the message was totally not for accountability like he so claimed.
There's another message, if you can provide context. It's from John Paul. Will please ask your wife to stop texting me things when she has no effing clue what has happened or is happening. She has sent wisdom out of her mouth about how she would do what Mica did, blah, blah, blah. And it goes on. What is this about?
It was at the end of the night, around 1 o'clock in the morning, and Mica was concerned that he truly was driving up there to get her back.
When was this time frame wise?
It was the early hours of the 17th, around probably 1 o'clock in the morning.
April 17th?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. November 17th.
November, sorry. Okay, yeah. Okay.
And of 2022,
okay.
I should say. But he had stopped responding to the messages that she was in with her sister. He'd stopped responding to the message that we were in together. And then when he stopped responding, Mica was obviously very concerned. And she said he'd turned off his location services, so she didn't know where he was. And she was asking me what to do. And I said, honestly, Mica, I would call the police and have him do a wellness check just to make sure he's there. And she did. And once he finally started writing back, his direct message to me, because I said, JP, if you don't write us back soon, I'm going to come over there, which I would not have. But he finally wrote back and he said, and I'll just let you fill in the blanks here, but effing B tried to get me arrested. And I said, John Paul, she wanted to do a wellness check. With everything that you're saying, I would have done the same thing. And me saying that is what sparked his message to my husband and myself about stop texting me. You have no effing clue. Because I said I would have done the same thing.
What was your one-on-one with him like? There's one thing with the messages, but your experiences with him over the years and observing what you did between him and Mica, what can you tell us about that?
Well, JP and I did not have any kind of one-on-one relationship, we always did things as a couple, or I might join them for dinner or something. But my husband and I were good friends with them for the years leading up and up to this fight. But we had been good friends. And
your relationship with Mica, she seemed like a wonderful person. You sent us all these wonderful photographs of you guys together. Talk to us about her, what she was like.
Oh, man. She was just such a true kindred spirit. I think everybody that met her probably would say that about her. She was funny. She made you feel funny. She had a laugh that was just one in a million. She was so helpful to everybody. She busied her days by helping people. And she was just one of those truly godly women that just has such a beautiful, pure soul that you were lucky to meet and even luckier to be considered a friend.
And Charlotte, before I let you go, what are you hoping happens next in this whole saga, this whole story?
I'm hoping that Mica's story will help others that might be in a similar situation or dealing with abuse. And I'm hoping that we get some answers for some of the inconsistencies that were surrounding that day. And overall, just justice for Mica.
Charlotte, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your experiences, sharing these messages, more context with us. Again, so sorry for your loss. So sorry for your experience in all this, but really appreciate you taking the time and coming here on Sidebar. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, here's something else. Now, Mica's sister, Sierra, has stepped in as special administrator of Mica's estate, and she's granted permission to Regina Ward, this was the attorney handling Mica's divorce and separation proceedings, to talk with us about some of the things she learned about Mica as well as John Paul. Let's listen to what Regina Ward had to say. I just want to make it clear to everybody how you're able to talk about this. So, as I said, Sierra was appointed as special administrator to handle Mica's estate, so she essentially steps into the shoes of your client Mica.
Correct.
But there was a waiver of the duty of confidentiality. So that is how you're able to explain some of these these details to us. Just want our viewers to be aware of that as well. But please continue. Please continue about the grounds that she was seeking and why she was looking to separate from John Paul.
Yeah, so we moved forward on the no-fault grounds. In South Carolina, to get a divorce, you have to have grounds. It's adultery, which she had evidence of that. Also physical cruelty, which she had evidence of that. And then she didn't want to go that route anymore. She wanted to try to leave the marriage as amicably as possible. She didn't want to go after him on fault grounds and put all of those things out there. She just wanted it to be, hey, our relationship is over with. Let's move on. We're going in different directions. She had found her passion and she was ready to do that. And she was empowered and felt uplifted, and that we could pursue this without, it being just an all-out litigated fight. So we moved forward on what's called the grounds of 1 year separation. So it's not ripe for a divorce yet, but at the moment it's called separate maintenance and support. A lot of people refer to that as a legal separation. They are legally separated whether there's a court document or not. So the point was that we were going to go forward on this June 5th hearing, wherein she was going to ask the court for specific relief, return and possession of certain property of hers that she wanted to have. And then we would just wait for the 1 year to pass. And at the end of 1 year separation, then she would file for an actual divorce at that time.
I want to correct the record a little bit, because when we spoke to, Mica's family, I might have, maybe I misheard it, but I thought they said that the days before her death, she had filed for a no contact order and divorce. Or is that not correct?
Yeah. So, I think that it's easier for people to refer to it in their mind as she filed for divorce. She filed for what we call legally a separate maintenance and support action. People commonly call that a legal separation. It would not be ripe for divorce unless she pursued grounds. And she didn't want to pursue grounds, this third round of litigation. She was like, I just want to be separated for a year, divide our things and move on.
One of the things we had just talked about were some of the comments from Reginald Miller. This is the father of John Paul Miller, father-in-law to Mica. Just wanted your perspective, your response to what he claimed.
Well, I can only tell you what my client explained to me happened. And basically, there was a situation where she says that she did get a gun and that she did put that to her head, that she did pull the trigger, and that the bullet jammed. As far as the gun going off after that did not happen according to my client. She didn't, say that happened. There's a statement that she shot up the neighborhood, like she went through, shooting the gun. That's not true according to what my client relayed to me. It was simply, the gun jammed, and that was the end of it. Nothing else happened.
And what about the claim where he says her family refused to believe how sick she was? She was a very, very sick young woman.
Okay, well, Mr. Miller's father, from what I understand, and I don't have all the details on that, I'm not sure exactly how much he was actually involved. The other thing is that things that go on behind closed doors is only known by those people. So for him to have personal direct knowledge of anything would be surprising to me. And so to say that she was very, very sick, I don't think he is in a position to make that call. And pretty much anything that he said in there is going to be hearsay from his own son, who's going to spin it in his own direction.
And that is all we have for you here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.